Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Art of Selling podcast. On the show we talk about the best kept sales secrets that we've now spent close to £1 million on over the last couple of years, having learned from some of the best sales gurus, marketing experts, business coaches, etc. And now we're sharing all of that information for free because hopefully you don't have to struggle the way we did. And yeah, there's no catch, just approach this with an open mind and maybe practice some of these tips in your business. Today, specifically, we want to talk about why you should be clear and not clever when it comes to your marketing messages. And in the studio today, I've got Gilbert Kompakwe.
Thank you for having me.
And Vickers van Wyk.
I'm back.
So we want to talk about why you should be clear and not clever when it comes to your marketing and sales messages. So Gilbert, I'm going to hand over to you because I'm out of breath from doing all the push-ups. Can you introduce us? Can you do a bit of an introduction to why being clear is so important?
Absolutely. So clarity in your messaging is so crucial because the last thing you want to do is be quirky and showcase or rather market yourself in a way that the language you use makes me sit and have to go look at a dictionary because I don't understand all the big words that you're using. And now I need to try and process the words that I can't necessarily understand because they're just not in my general vocabulary that I use and I talk on a day-to-day basis. Messaging around, when it comes to clarity, it boils down to, I actually like to say this, you need to learn to speak like your consumer. I do understand that there are some brands and there are some businesses that target people who potentially have, PhDs, honors, and they have a different type of possibly vocabulary that they use in their jobs and in their roles. However, when it comes to marketing, you're marketing to people, and you need to understand that the way the brain works as well is that when I receive a marketing message, put yourself in their shoes. There's a lot of things happening on a day-to-day basis. At work, I am constantly processing information that makes me tired by the end of the day. When I get home, I've gone through so many different emails. I've gone through, depending on what my role is, maybe I'm dealing with mathematics, maybe I'm dealing with a lot of, the technical side of things, programming, whatever the case may be. My job is very demanding. So by the time I'm receiving a marketing message, let's say after hours, my brain is drained already. Now, if your marketing messaging is being introduced to me with words that I might need to process a little bit longer because I don't quite get it. You're using big magnanimous words or, novelty, bespoke. It's not typical for me to use that vocabulary in the first place. So I need to now try and understand and decipher what is this messaging really trying to tell me? And who are they? Are they actually speaking to me because of the way that you've used the language just to try and articulate yourself?
Yeah, nobody wants to take the time to figure out what you're trying to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so this is why being clear versus quirky is so crucial, is because you actually want to increase the processing time of your marketing message when someone receives it.
Or you want to decrease the processing time.
Yeah, sorry, decrease the processing time. Yeah, but we're going to take
Alex Hormozy also talks about, whenever he talks about marketing messaging and how you should approach it, he talks about leveling with your customers on like a third grade level of language. And he also does his podcast in a similar way, is just to make sure that it's understandable to literally everybody. And even though your vocabulary is much bigger than other people, it's just like there's a baseline level. And speaking to being clear, is we spend a lot of money on advertising, and we don't want to leave people after reading an ad as to like in confusion as to what we just marketed or what they just read. They need to understand clearly as to what is the main benefit, what is the main pain point we're solving, and then how this product is going to help us get to that.
Yeah. So when you're running ads, essentially, obviously you're spending money on your marketing and you're reaching a bunch of people, and you want to increase the probability of everybody understanding what you're saying. If you're going to be very precise with your words, and if you're going to have some form of imposter syndrome when it comes to your brand, where you feel like you have to use all these novelty, sentences or try and be quirky and clever as opposed to being clear, you will decrease the amount of people that actually understand what you're trying to say, period. So out of a quantification game, if there was 100 people who saw the message, if you're trying to be clever, a very small percentage of them would have probably only grasped what you were trying to say. Where if you were being clear, a higher percentage of people will get what you're trying to say, which means you're going to potentially have a higher uptake of people who might click through and actually take you up on the offer. That's really what marketing boils down to, is just rather be clear as opposed to being clever. Now, there are brands that would debate this and say, well, we only want to speak to a specific percentage of the market, and that is all good and well, and they might have their own reasons for doing that. But if as a local small business or as an e-commerce store selling a D2C product, 99% of the time, being clear out-trumps being clever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like in our copy, when I teach staff members to do copy or when I do training on this, is we literally have the headline drawing the person we're speaking to's attention, and then in the second line we get straight to the point as to what this ad is about, so they can decide if they want to read the rest of this or if they just want to click off and continue with the scrolling. That's just going to give us a lot higher conversion rate, and if people will know immediately if they are interested in something like this or not.
Yeah, and they will understand actually what you're trying to say at the end of the day too.
Like I think I've read so many copies, and I'm just like just scrolling through your feed, there's so many ads and stuff, and I usually read their copy just to kind of like get an idea of how they write it, and sometimes I'm just like, what are you selling?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're selling at the end of the day, which means you can't be upset if people are not going to give you money if they don't understand what you're actually trying to sell.
Like or sometimes I saw this ad, there's like this Afrikaans guy selling these new washing clips, and he like introduces the clip's name and he talks about it, and then at the end he says it's a washing clip, and I'm like, dude, like if you said that in the intro, I would have immediately thought, oh, this is clever. I just thought after watching a minute video, oh shit, this is so clever actually. And he's losing so much business by not mentioning that it is a new washing clip, like earlier in that video.
Yeah, maybe he's got a reason for it, maybe he doesn't. But
he doesn't.
The end of the story is that there might be a higher uptake in clicks or sales if you are a bit more straight to the point. And there was a study done on Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton back in 2016 when they had the presidential election and Donald Trump won. So after looking at all the different speeches, they realized that Donald Trump literally, everybody could understood the speeches that he was making, to the point where they said seventh graders could understand what he actually was trying to say. Where if you look at Hillary Clinton's speeches, I think she was appealing to people that was in grade 12 or older, which in her case probably she was like, well, that's the people who are able to vote. And I'm happy to continue with my vocabulary word choices like that because I want to seem more professional. But Donald Trump was like, I don't care about that. I just want to be straight to the point and get most of the people to understand what I'm trying to say. And that worked in his favor.
Yeah, it's about the faster you can get somebody to understand what you're saying, the better. Like the thing is, like you can explain it in so much detail and it wouldn't make that big of an impact versus just getting to the point and then selling your product.
Yeah.
It's the time difference really.
So getting people to understand what you're trying to say is one thing. So hypothetically, let's say you're putting a marketing message out there and a sixth grader can understand it. That's all good and well. But another big mistake that most brands make is that their word choices are extremely subjective. So even though people understand it, the actual meaning of it is subjective, and that loses a lot of power. So it's not just about being clear in the sense of getting people to understand the word, but what can make the marketing more impactful is when you're using objective tone in your marketing, saying something like, this can help you lose 10 kilograms in 7 weeks or less without having to go to the gym, as opposed to saying, this is a superior fat burner. Like at the end of the day, it's in that regard, maybe saying, this is a superior thermogenic, type of product, which thermogenic is the word for fat burner, and you were referencing having all these novelty words. So you can say this is a superior thermogenic, product, or you can say this product can help you lose weight, X amount of weight in X amount of days without having to do X or Y. And essentially the latter is not only clear, but it's very objective as opposed to being subjective.
Yeah, I get it. That makes 100% sense to me.
And I think the better we can implement that within our marketing, the better we will see success. But I think we maybe can just chat a little bit about where we actually do this, because it's not just in ads. Because I think a lot of people would run ads and think, all right, cool, we're going to run these ads. But then I read subjective headlines, I read subjective copy, I click through to the site and nothing makes sense. I've taken to a homepage where, it's just confusing messaging. And then I have to kind of like get to the end goal of the product or service myself, as opposed to just clicking on an objective ad that's straight to the point, going to a page that sells me directly into the ad that, that connects with the ad that I've just clicked on and gets me to the benefit of the actual product or service. The price makes sense. We can see that people are raving about it in terms of testimonials and reviews, and essentially clicking to buy the product or service. But it becomes this messy journey, subjective, clever. We have to drive people to this homepage where we can flaunt all of these, beautiful slider that we've designed with this beautiful font that we've chosen for your brand and your CI, as opposed to a company that's just straight to the point, clear and simple.
Yeah.
I think it exists on pretty much, you've covered on almost every single platform: your emails, your websites, your social media posting, your whether you do maybe what's SMS or WhatsApp broadcasting, whatever the case may be, wherever you are disseminating information, it's all these platforms where you actually need to just keep it simple, keep it clear. I wanted to say you should stress test your copy with grade 5 and find out if they could understand. Maybe you've got a child who's 5 years old and you can ask them, hey, if you read this, is it clear? Is it easy for you to understand? Do you know what daddy sells? And if they don't, then you know that you probably need to look into it.
Well, there's the app that I religiously use when I write copy, and it's called the Hemingway app. So the Hemingway app is something, I think we used it back in the day, but I've been religiously using it for the last 3 years. And when you put in your sales copy or marketing copy, whatever you want to necessarily write, you can put it in there. It will literally say, this appeals to, a 5th grader, a 6th grader, a grade 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and up. And I literally always ensure that checks out on 3rd grade, 4th grade, or less. Like if at the moment it goes over that, I start refining my copy. And some practical tips that we can maybe chat about on how to do that is, I enjoy writing short sentences. I don't like having long sentences. And when I write my emails, Gil will know, Vickers will know, but even the way I write my marketing ads on Facebook, my sales messages on a funnel page, short, to the point sentences.
Literally every sentence has like a small little punch. Like every sentence is really punchy. Like I love it.
Yeah, and in the moment you need more than 2 commas in a sentence, and it's probably too long. So that's how I look at it. Is that I like using 1 sentence, max 1 comma, straight to the point. Be as objective as possible with the word choices that you have. I also like using line breaks. So when we're writing, ad copies on Facebook, I try and write it all in new sentences, essentially, all new line breaks, as opposed to, nobody wants to read a long WhatsApp joke.
No, but just from when you look at it, it's just visually more appealing to read that copy.
And helping people process the
studies have shown that little line break momentarily creates a sense of rest on your eyes, which gives your brain the ability to continue reading. So it's like, because I can feel that I'm resting subconsciously, it's not consciously sitting there going, well, there's a line break, so now I can rest my eyes for a little bit and continue reading. That doesn't happen consciously. But subconsciously what happens, because of these line breaks, your brain feels like it's resting, and therefore it can continue reading. Because think about it, and I've used this analogy before, is that nobody really enjoys reading a massively long WhatsApp joke. Usually when you send it to a friend, they'll most likely just either not reply, or they just reply with a laugh emoji, knowing that they probably didn't even read the whole thing. And that is exactly what a lot of brands do with their product descriptions. It's what a lot of brands do with their email marketing campaigns. What a lot of brands do with their sales pages or Facebook ads. And it's understanding that if you want to be clear, it's not just about your word choices. It's about how you construct these sentences and paragraphs in a way that someone actually wants to consume it and enjoys consuming it.
Mm-hmm. Like what I like to do is when I write copy, like I love to write copy and get all my thoughts out on paper, and then I kind of like structure it in a more structured way. And from there, I usually just ask myself, like, what is unnecessary that I've written that's in this copy that is not going to convince somebody to click through to the landing page or to buy the product or whatever. And it's just about like taking out all the extra fluff that's around your copy and around your marketing messaging, and making it as simple as possible.
One of the biggest mistakes I used to make with writing sales copy is using filler words. And even when we speak, we use filler words.
Yeah.
But now what happens is when we start writing, we realize we can make a sentence a lot shorter by just, removing certain words that are not necessary. And it's like saying, also another tip that I maybe have for those listening is writing in a present and active tense, which I really love doing. So it's like, as opposed to saying, Gilbert is now sitting and recording a podcast, I'll just say, Gil sits and record a podcast. It's like simple stuff like that. When you start writing in a more active present tense, straight to the point, and being clear with what you're trying to say, picking words that people understand, and then being objective with the word choices as well, so that there's a tangible, tone to it where someone can almost spot the value behind what you're saying. That creates an immense impact when it comes to your marketing at the end of the day.
Yeah, all the word choice and even pronouns, things like you, using you and your, this is your website, this is your car, it's making sure that you can actually put the individual who's reading it as if you're speaking to them so that they can actually resonate better with your copy. But obviously now we're talking about copywriting, and that's a whole conversation on its own. But some good pointers, obviously, that's important to know.
100%. I think let's just round up with some practical tips, maybe from a marketing perspective on a local business. Let's use an example of a guy or a laser clinic. We always use this example because that's just what we specialize in. Maybe, how would we write ads for a beauty clinic if we wanted to be clear as opposed to being clever?
Yeah, so just from a copy perspective, we would obviously let's start with the creative maybe. Like on the creative, we always have the offer and the price really clear on it because that just attracts the best quality client. And we always try to bundle it up into some sort of attractive package, like a winter wonder package or something like that. Or like let's say a face rejuvenation package or something like that, because that just gives it a really sexy appeal. And then we have the price straight to the point. There's no it doesn't leave your mind open for interpretation. You immediately know what kind of treatments we are selling and what area we are targeting, and then the price. So you already know it's a good deal. This is what we're targeting. This is the possible end results, and this is what it costs. And then from a copy perspective, we directly address, like we do something like, hey ladies, or something like that, directly address our audience. Although it's a little bit more broad, we always want to address our audience. And then the main benefit in the headline as well, this winter we are having kind of like doing a facial rejuvenation package for only X amount. So we also directly address people and then get directly to what we are actually selling. And then we'd bring in urgency, scarcity, and stuff like that. So that way we're being clear, direct, and whenever somebody sees that, it's impossible not to get what we are selling and get the end result and get the main benefit and the main value proposition.
And on the e-com side, when we build sales pages, Gil, like I think, the simplest way to maybe explore a practical example would be to look at a sales page and look at the headline. What does Russell Brunson say is like, what is the main benefit minus main benefit in a specific time minus the risk? That's just the best way to write an extremely clear headline and be specifically to the point without any unnecessary jargon.
Yeah, I think it comes down to really just being simple, being clear, not overly complex with your sentences. You've already touched on a few things as well. Just keeping it short, 1-2 liners. Also trying to ensure that there's spaces and breaks between different sentences, and making sure that the customer and whoever is on the other side reading that copy doesn't necessarily have to, take a break and try and, process the word that they're reading because it's a bit too out of their vocabulary on a day-to-day. Ensuring that you speak to the benefits. Obviously, it's always a benefit-driven headline, and that's what ideally just is something that you always got to focus on when it comes down to writing product descriptions.
And you can apply that to everything. It's a benefit-related Facebook ad copy, email marketing, sales page. Yeah, it's all just like being straight to the point. And the reason people are clicking on your ad is because they hope that there's some benefit in it for them. It's purely it. They're not going to just click on it unless it's purely for entertainment purposes. But, if you can get people to quickly understand the main benefit of what is going to happen post clicking this ad, and you can do that in a very specific way where anybody or a higher percentage of people can truly understand what you're saying. You're picking tangible, objective words that actually clearly articulate the value and all of those things. I 100% believe that you should see a higher uptake in, I would say, people clicking on your ads or people converting on your landing page. But yeah, please let us know if you have put this to the test and if it made a difference for you. It's definitely made a difference for us and many of our clients. From our side today, I don't think there's anything else that we want to add to this, but we appreciate your time, appreciate you watching and listening. We'll see you next time. All the best.
Cheers.